a lot of business owners, myself included, have a tendency to hold on to tasks that don't really need to be done by them for whatever reason. And there can be fear attached to that if I let go of this task, it might be done wrong, or I might not have anything to do, or I might lose my value as a business owner. Like this idea that I have to stay busy in order to keep my business going. There's room in this process to assess what are the tasks that you actually enjoy doing and what are the ones you don't like doing that could be done by someone else that will free up your time to tap into your unique genius that makes you the business visionary and the business owner. So kind of filling it out, who do we have on the team? And it goes the same for your team members as well. So it's kind of tapping into what does everyone have to bring to the table in terms of their unique skills and how can you optimize that?
Welcome to the Space Whispering podcast with Rainy. Today, as a guest, we have Kat. She's a business operations genius for creators. She goes into your business, assesses your current situation, and looks at ways that truly match to who you are and the needs that your business and your teams need, and create systems around your unique genius. She is very detailed oriented, but for me, the most special thing she has is she is very loving and accepting. And I feel like there's room for the crazy in your creative endeavors around her, because that chaos is what needs guidance for it to be communicated to your clients, to your team. And she looks at all of this and addresses it. So what you think is your downfall is actually your strength. It's just that you need to put it in language and a system around it to support your creative process. I hope you like it as much as did. Please follow the podcast, review it, click like, and leave a review. Let us know if you like this episode or any past episodes and how can we serve you. Please email me at hello@rainy.co and let's create worlds together. Hi, Kat.
Hi, Rainy.
How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am good. I'm happy to be talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you so much for the intro. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And you mentioned intro, so do you want to talk to us a little bit about you?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Kat. I am the owner of Kat&Co. We are a business operations consultancy specifically for creative companies. I primarily help interior designers, but am open to helping anyone that has a creative company and is a creative themselves.
Beautiful. And so it's not only interior designers, just like graphic designers, architecture.
Yes. Yeah. Any interior designers, graphic designers, home decor, custom furniture. I have a tattoo shop that I'm helping. The creative process is all intuitively the same. So really it's bringing that structure and the business operations side to those who are doing a creative field or within a creative field.
So for example, I have a design studio right now, and how would you help me? Like what are your services? What are the things that you would offer me specifically? You know a little bit about me, so yeah.
Well, I'll start with kind of explaining the main, I guess, top three would be business operations, coming in and assessing what the current processes are, how we can be improving those for efficiency, for scalability, to repeat the process. I know a lot of business owners are hesitant to put themselves into a process because of the custom nature of the work, but really it's about finding the process and the patterns that work for them and their company, putting those into standard operating procedures and helping them really feel a sense of, okay, this is how I run my business. What are the standards that I can fall back on when I run into XYZ problem, and really defining those and putting them into place. Secondly, also helping with people management, creative teams, hiring, onboarding, training, and really making sure that the team that's in place for that firm is right for their values. That's a big thing, especially with creative minds and the process in general, and really making sure people are in the right seats for what their values and their strengths are that they bring to the company. And then thirdly, I don't know if that's a word, thirdly, is client onboarding and general client experience. What does it look like or feel like to a client when they're finding your studio or your services for the first time? How do they engage with you? What does it look like to them when they're reaching out? What information are they receiving? And what type of education is in place to make sure that before they're signed on as a client, they are 100% certain that it's a mutual fit on both sides and they understand the firm's process and pricing structure, timeline, all of that jazz to make sure you're just kind of cutting down on potential issues down the road. So that's another thing that I help firms with.
That's a big, very, very big responsibilities. And, it is needed. It's because, like for me, for many years, or maybe for a few years, I was running my business as a freelancer, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And, I realized like if I keep doing this, I'm never going to grow. I'm never going to have that structure. But to get to that level, there was a lot of, and still like a lot of struggle, like internally
Mm-hmm.
and mentally. So I guess when you mentioned the word creative, you're referring to kind of that part because I'm not alone in this.
Mm-hmm.
And by saying that, how do you find your clients? Or how do clients find you? Or vice versa?
Right now, I'm very lucky and grateful to say that the majority of my clients come through referrals from past clients or the connections I make through my network. And I also do, occasional outreach to firms that I feel like would be a good fit for me. That's about it for now. I'm working on trying to figure out what is the best marketing intuitive fit for who I'm looking to work with and who works best with me. But yeah, right now it's referrals, email outreach, and media platforms like this where I'm getting connections and making connections that way.
Beautiful. And you mentioned values. I think that, like, what are, for example, well, this question can go I can have like several questions for the specific like value idea, because you mention it specifically when you're connecting a client or onboarding a client as well
Mm.
with a firm or a studio. And so with values, there's a lot of them, right? There's the standards one, right? But can you talk more about that?
About my personal values or finding the right values for each client or like
Yeah,
defining
for
what their values are.
yeah, the second one.
Okay. So, yes, that's kind of a generic buzzword, right? On what are your values. But how I'm using it essentially breaks down to maybe the top 4 or 5 pillars of how, as a business entity or a firm, how do we want to operate? What are the top pillars that we want our firm to be known for, um, that we want our clients to resonate with and feel like, oh, this is a safe space or the right space for me, as well as how do I want my team to operate? So, it can be really anything, but in that process of defining processes, it does come up in terms of maybe one firm has a different opinion on how fast they should be responding to an email, for example. I'll just use this as an example. If
Amazing.
they feel that my team needs to have a timely response within 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it is, that might be tied to a larger value of being professional, being reliable, being trustworthy, being organized, whatever it is, that is tied to a feeling of this is how I want to present and this is how this is what we want to be known for. So it's really kind of teasing those out through the process of defining their operations, as well as defining who do we want to be to the world and what do we want to be known for.
That is very interesting because I realize vice versa, when a client goes silent
Mm-hmm.
and or when, for example, I take more than 24 hours to respond. I try not to do that, but it has happened. And I've seen both sides.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, you could value authentic and intuitive communication, right? You might not want to respond right away because you want to take your time and respond once you feel certain that this is aligned with what you want to be. That could be a value as well. Not rushing into things and not forcing things into boxes could be aligned to a larger value. I mean, it can go any which way, and it really comes back to the business owner, as well as the brand that they're trying to create for their business.
When you said that, I feel like a certain relief, breathe in, breathe out, because it's interesting how, like structures and values are, like you said, there can be so many. And you mentioned two of them, like, okay, people want to be respond 20 within 24 hours or less. And then you have the other ones that are more intuitive, that it's like, when it feels right, I will answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of it's communication beforehand, right? So the client knows.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that ties into the client education part of it, where before someone even signs on with you, they can get enough information either from your website or perhaps a how we work type document or a welcome guide type document where it outlines this is how our firm operates and our firm likes to work. And in that, you can have communication guidelines since we're talking about this. This is how long you should expect for a response from us. This is how we like to tackle problems. This is how we break down difficult situations that happen, and really laying it out in the beginning so the client themselves can know. I mean, if the firm is, yeah, exactly. You don't want to have two opposites kind of together. You want to make sure that when you're signing on to these multi-year projects that you guys are aligned in that sense, and others.
Yeah, this is how important, like you just mentioned, how important it is to have an operations company or person within a studio or firm, because these are things that alleviate the owner and their team, alleviates you, right? Because then it streamlines a lot of processes and communications, like back and forth emails or text or however the company communicates, which also I'm guessing it translates to the programs you're communicating with the client. Is it Slack? Is it WhatsApp? Is it email? Is it, what programs you use?
Yeah,
Programma?
that's one of the questions I always ask in a discovery call with a potential new client is, one, how do you communicate with your clients and how do you communicate with your team? And those are two different things. And that will also give me an understanding of the programs they might already be using. And also if the programs they are using, if those are actually serving them in the right way. A lot of the times they might be using a program because it's so common. You hear about it all the time and it's praised as the number one X problem for X business. When in reality, it might not work with how they want to communicate with their team or clients or how their brain works. Everyone thinks differently. Everyone receives information differently. And it's not a one size fits all solution.
It's not. And what comes up now, it's a little bit of fear. So I'm guessing other people feel that, your clients as well. Like, it's like, wait, but if I put these structures or if I show up as I really am, like, explaining to a client that I'm not going to answer, I might not answer within the 24-hour, or that I have a schedule that I only communicate with clients from Monday to Friday from 9 to 12 or whatever. And that my clients might leave because I'm not always available for them. Do you encounter that a lot?
I mean, I think everyone has that in some sense. I mean, it's the fear of not being received as who you are, essentially, not being recognized for your expertise. And of course, the scarcity of if I put this boundary in place, I'm not going to have money. Like, that's really what it comes down to. But if you consider the long game of sacrificing those boundaries, I think it behooves you to practice at least putting them in place and seeing the results you get. Because over time, just jeopardizes your mental health, your ability to run your business effectively, your team's morale. If everything is a moving target and you're saying this to this client and this to this client, and there's really no way to manage that, it gets exhausting for your team and the client. So it's just a matter of establishing where you would like to be in an ideal world. And if you're not comfortable enforcing those boundaries now, what are some, I guess, stepping stones or like a middle ground that you can start working towards and start enforcing to get to that place?
Yes, and the thing is also when you get to that level, it is a process. And I'm guessing you deal a lot with that and you have your own processes to help your clients do that. But there is respect. Clients actually end up respecting you because it's like, oh, look at her efficiency. Look how she's honest, she's transparent, or they're transparent, they're honest. I feel safe or I feel seen and I know they're going to do their job because of these structures.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a benefit of the predictability of doing what you say you're going to do.
Exactly. It's so simple, right?
That's what I do. And this is a strength of mine that I've come to verbalize and realize what it is over the last couple years. But I think one of my strengths is taking disparate pieces of information and organizing and simplifying them. And I think that's why I work so well in the creative fields. I'm a creative myself. I get the process. I get the roller coaster of emotions, the vulnerability. I understand all of that. And I'm also really good at listening and piecing together with the information I receive.
Yeah, when you mentioned that you're a creative, I would love to know like more of your background, how you decided to become up, decide to do what you do now.
Well, where do I start? I have always been.
Your name.
Okay, let's back up. I was born on no. Yes, so I I've always been creative. It's funny, just recently, this is coming up. I've had random people from high school that I was friends with, text me like, "You made this card for me forever ago and I kept it." And I'm like, "Oh my God. Wow." Even back then, I just was connected to making things for other people. And, things that I don't even remember are coming up. And I'm like, okay, this has always been a part of me. But I have painted for a long time. In college, I got a theater degree I hate acting, but I only got a theater degree because I was in the shop all the time building the sets and like making and painting and, being part of that. And they're like, "You might as well just get a minor here." I got a psychology degree. That's another form of art in a sense, is the human psyche and the human design. And actually, I started in biotech after college, which wasn't the best fit for me. And I was just really leaning towards, how can I get back into that creative field? I started as an executive assistant at a design build firm. So that was I don't have a design degree. I didn't go to design school. But my psychology degree really helps me in that sense. And started there very quickly, like within a couple weeks, I would say, was all right. No longer am I just executive assistant. Like, I'm going to run this ship. So, so, going from that to managing all of the operations It was a design and a build, I think I mentioned. So the shop was in the back. So furniture being built right there that was designed. So I would manage the office, manage the shop, get back there, build the stuff with the guys, help with install, do the logistics, manage the clients, everything. It was a small company and I had my hands in everything. And that's kind of where I realized I like to run everything. From there, I moved down to Los Angeles and stayed within the industry of residential interior design, custom furniture, fine art, several commercial projects, but all from that operations lens of I'm within the industry, but I'm the one helping manage and run the business. And when I started consulting on the side, before I went full-time consulting, I was looking kind of back at the patterns, right? And just kind of assess what got me to this place. And that's where I really realized that I really like supporting from behind the scenes. I really like making sure that the ship is still on track and allowing my creatives that I care and protect and love to have that space to do what they do best and really supporting them so that they can do what their strengths are. So that's really where I established that pattern for myself and started consulting, and here I am now.
Beautiful. What a journey. And I think that to be able to get there, you had to create some structure for yourself, right? And also clarity, because just talking with you about values, you already have a certain clarity of what they are, of how to approach it to other people and the differences of people. So there's like a wealth of knowledge that and experience that you bring to the table. My curiosity is like, what is the work you do to be able to have that clarity, or the work you have done? Like, I didn't know you had a psychology background, and that makes sense in a way, but I study architecture, but the real experience comes, or the real knowledge comes when you're in the field. And so, it doesn't matter if you have the title as much. It does, because you're surrounded by it and you're listening to it all the time and studying. But at the same time, it's the experience. So I think you, regardless of me not knowing, what I can sense is that you have a lot of experience, that you create structure around them.
What's coming up for me there is gosh, that's tied to a lot of things. Let's back up here in my brain. So I think it's tied to, one, I'm an empathic person and I really do tap into what other people are thinking or feeling. And it sounds woo-woo, but it's true. And I think also that, plus having experience in an assistant type role where you need to predict what's going to happen, that type of position and the experience of being in that type of role, you need to have plan B, C, D, E, F, G, all in your head and in motion. I'm not that extreme anymore. I don't need to be, and I don't want to be that extreme. But I think I'm trying to say is that foundation of listening and also trying to piece together the pieces and formulate the puzzle in live time really helps me kind of maximize the time I spend with my clients and make it the most efficient as possible. That's one of my goals and values, is to make sure that they never feel like the time they spend with me is wasted.
Yeah. And in a way, it makes sense that you have a lot of people that are recommending you, because I think this is a precious career or company you have created, because like you say, I protect my creatives. You said that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you care for them.
I do. Yeah. I think feedback I've received from you and other people is that they feel comfortable talking with me. And that's something that I want to ensure that anyone I work with feels the value of working together. And it's more than just, I'm going to do your processes, boop, boop, boop. Okay, goodbye. Like, that's not what I'm here. I'm very human forward and human focused. And I want them to feel comfortable to let me know when things aren't going okay. And be vulnerable when you need to be vulnerable. And the process of redefining your business and admitting you need help with your business in the first place is extremely vulnerable. This is something that you've built from scratch. In a lot of ways, it can feel like your baby. And to admit that you've done some things along the road wrong is very hard. So really, I want to make sure that I'm meeting that with grace and I'm meeting that with acceptance, no matter what stage or what part of the process they're in. I want to make sure that they feel safe to break it down and build it back together.
You mentioned something very interesting, break it down. And
Yeah.
that on its own, it's a huge thing because it's like, but you mentioned it's a baby, you know, it's like, why? Why do I have to do that, you know?
It can be intense. I mean, even just the process of defining what your processes are. There's so much work that goes into why we do the things that we do. Why are we doing it in this order? Why are we using this program? Why do we keep doing this when we get this result? There's a lot to break down, and it can be exhausting when you go through that process. I really try to schedule a lot of that time and get through a lot of those questions together with my client and kind of download everything that they have to tell me when we're on the call together. So then I can go back and do my organization and my, defining the processes and all the behind the scenes grunt work for them and come back. So it kind of alleviates the stress on them to do it. That's why they're asking for help. They need help. And I'm not someone to just give strategy and then just say, good luck. I'm going to help you implement it and put it into practice as well.
Yeah, thank you for saying that because I was thinking like, okay, let's narrow it down so it doesn't feel as big. You just kind of did that. And if you want, you can expand on that because it might seem very big, but what you're doing is, okay, we have a session or a few sessions where I kind of understand how you run the business now. And then because of my expertise, I'm going to create a system that works for you, like tailored to you. And so you will feel comfortable. And don't worry, just keep doing what you're doing. And we're going to, slowly or maybe not slowly, but we're going to implement these things because how long is it? What is the timeline to create these? I'm guessing depending on the phases.
Yeah. And depending on what the targets are that we're tackling. Some people want to tackle more than one thing at once, which is fine. But just to estimate for maybe standard operating procedures, like let's give an example, small firm, under 5 people. They've been operating for 3 or 4 years now. Everyone that's been there is kind of in the know at how things work. They're going to bring someone new on. Oh my God, how do we explain everything we have in our brains to this new person? We don't have any way for them. It's not like they can tap into your hive mind. They need a way to train and understand and learn how the company runs. So putting all of that into practice and onto paper for a new person or for reinforcing how the company is run. That's what I call standard operating procedures. That process would probably take maybe 2 to 3 months, but that's not continuous work. That is really, having a large strategy meeting with the owner, me kind of coming back, putting my stuff together, giving them a round, having a meeting to do feedback, me doing edits, and all of that probably has a week or so in between to give everyone adequate time to read and review and redline and, sit with it. So it's not continuous work, but it can get drawn out depending on each individual person and how long they need to receive the information, sit with it, provide feedback, and then we kind of keep going.
Yeah. So you simplify it for them as well, even though the whole process. And it's very interesting because in that, you're creating a lot of clarity. But also, it can still be overwhelming because it's like, okay, I see the organization. There's a lot of words. Let's say that. I see a lot of words. And so as a creator, right? But also then the creative can concentrate, or the owner can concentrate on their thing, and the team can do what they do best, or one of the 5 people can actually focus on what you're doing and the feedback and the back and forth, and it doesn't really have to be the owner.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's another kind of part of this process is assessing, is everyone in the right seat, essentially. A lot of business owners, myself included, have a tendency to hold on to tasks that don't really need to be done by them for whatever reason. And there can be fear attached to that if I let go of this task, it might be done wrong, or I might not have anything to do, or I might lose my value as a business owner. Like this idea that I have to stay busy in order to keep my business going. There's room in this process to assess what are the tasks that you actually enjoy doing and what are the ones you don't like doing that could be done by someone else that will free up your time to tap into your unique genius that makes you the business visionary and the business owner. So kind of filling it out, who do we have on the team? And it goes the same for your team members as well. Do you have a designer that really loves being part of the design process and hates procurement, and somehow that person is doing all the ordering? Why? Do you have someone who's very analytical, who is picking up samples? They can be doing more of the more of the operations logistics work. So it's kind of tapping into what does everyone have to bring to the table in terms of their unique skills, and how can you optimize that?
Amazing. I think this brings clarity, what you're just saying, to a lot of people that are like, okay, I need her services and I didn't even realize it, that I needed this. And it's about
That'll
tapping
happen.
into, yeah, it's about, like, I love that you said, tap into your genius. Like, I think we truly forget about this, and not only creatives, but a lot of people, because of that pressure that we put onto ourselves that is not realistic at all.
Yeah. I mean, I do it too. Everyone does it in a different way, but kind of having someone like me in your corner for you to point these things out. Do you need to be doing this, or can this person be doing this? And just helping be a champion for you as your business grows and as you grow, as we all grow as collective humans.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of, with the internet and AI, I think we're more connected than ever in a way. I know there's a lot of theories that we're also disconnected. I understand that. But we're also have so much available for us. For example, like you running your business. I can be in South Africa right now, and we can be talking and, curating a plan for to run my business in the background while I do whatever I need to do. And I want to go into like you and yourself and like the behind the scenes of you. And one of the things I can see is like your background right now. And I see a lot of color, I see structure, I see a lot of life, and I'm guessing, you are that. And so like you surround yourself with a lot of art, right? And is it interesting to have like, some clients and be like, you mentioned a tattoo artist, and like seeing that process? Like, how does that feel for you? Or like tapping into so many creatives that are like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, the thread is kind of the same for me. They had this vision. That's the reason they started their company. And along the way, they realized that, oh my gosh, there's a lot of tasks associated with this that I don't really know how to do, or I don't really know if I'm doing it right, or this is taking up all of my time and I don't feel creative anymore. Somewhere along the road, it starts to dull the creative vision that led them to this work in the first place. So no matter what industry it is, that is the common thread that I see. And that is essentially what I'm coming in to help restructure, to ensure that they can tap back into that.
one thing I'm thinking is that I'm guessing one way to view the owners or your clients' value is like, this is the value you're worth per hour. I know that's not true. Like, it doesn't exist, the worth of a
Oh my
human,
gosh.
but
I have my
right?
calculator by me at all times. And I am known in meetings to be like, well, how much would that be per hour? Yeah, that's me. Let's break it down. Is it worth it to do this task? No. Can you bill this back to the client? No. Like, yes, I've been known to break that and really put a logical spin on this because a lot of this work is emotionally based. This is a creative endeavor. It's coming from your passion, your essence, and you're showing it to the world. And business is not. That's something that I struggle with as well as a business owner, of having to put my business hat on and be, is this best for business or is this best for my feelings? Do I not want to do this because I'm scared of blah 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 blah? Who's going to perceive me in this way, or they're going to think I'm this, or they're going to think I'm that? Or is it, this decision would be good for my business to move forward? And it is a constant reminder. And sometimes you need someone to help put that hat on for you to make those decisions.
Yeah. And it also helps with the process because it's like, okay, I'm trusting Kat to do this because it's hard for me to make that decision. And I
Yeah,
mean, you have to back up the decision, but in a way, it's like, it's also like, I'm trusting this, I'm trusting her, and I'm trusting myself
trusting
by
yourself.
trusting her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, is trusting yourself. And sometimes all that you need is someone to bounce ideas off of and get a second opinion. You're like, I'm in this weird situation right now, and I don't really know, how do I reinforce this boundary that I already told them? Problems can be cyclical, and sometimes you just need someone from an outside perspective to help you spot the patterns and help you put processes in place to prevent the same issue from happening again.
Yeah. And do you have practices like on your own that you do to keep you grounded or like keep you clear on your business and how to show up with your clients?
Yes, I do yoga, maybe, not every day, but I would say most days of the week, like 4 or 5 days a week. And I like to do it at the end of my workday. I am not a morning person, admittedly. So doing that in the morning does not work for me. But doing it after my workday is done really helps me almost close the book on that part of my day and start the next part of my day, you know, whatever that is. But it helps me compartmentalize what I'm doing for my business and during my day-to-day life and then my home life. And it's just a way for me to clear my head and, get out of my head and into my body and, kind of leave whatever's going on the table for the next day.
It's interesting because if you're in the perfect, in a way, I don't know if that's true, but time zone, or is it the worst for like if you're working for someone in the East Coast because you're in LA?
Yeah,
Is it a good one or is it horrible?
my hours don't change depending on where my clients are. I don't start work before 9 a.m. So that's one of my boundaries.
I like that. I
I
like
have
that.
East Coast clients and they know when
Yeah.
I'm online.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I do get early morning emails or texts, I don't respond until my workday starts.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's very clear. And that takes a lot of courage and knowing thyself,
It's hard. Some days I'm like, maybe I should just respond. I don't know. But that also goes back to that, I think, that assistant mindset that I was talking about earlier of needing to be on call 24/7. As someone that is very aware of other people's emotions and feelings, I had people-pleasing tendencies. I still do, working on that. It's hard. It's hard not to be like, "I'm here for you. I'm on it," you know? But that goes back to best for business and reinforcing those boundaries that are in my contract. on our communication standards and timeline and keeping that consistency. Because once you break that door down, then everyone's going to be, I can
going
contact her
through it.
whenever I want.
Yeah. Best for business. I really like that. Almost like a mantra. What is best for business? What is best for
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
And it's kind of like personifying the business in a way where if you think about your business as another person that you're taking care of, like what's best for this business? What's best for business? I'm managing this separate entity. I created it, but it's not me. I have my name on it, but it's not me. So you have to manage it as a separate entity sometimes. And it can be healthy to have that separation.
It's so beautiful the way you just put that. It's like a different thing. It's not you. It's not you. It's not them.
Mhm.
It's just a business. At the end of the day, that's why I think it's so important, the wellness part of running the business. Because if you don't have those practices, like you use the yoga and also the boundaries, the lines get very blurry and clarity just gets blurry. You can see
Mm-hmm.
through it.
Yeah.
So going back to your design and creative, vein that you have, or attraction to this creative, like today, what do you do to keep that creativity open within you?
I like that question. Well, I mean, I don't paint very much anymore, but I have found I think I was talking about this with someone recently about over time, my creative outlets have become more organized in themselves. And I found other mediums that are more, I guess, easier to control. So I've been getting into block printing. I was into textiles for a while, design, but I guess in terms of block printing, it is very clear if you've made a mistake or not. Whereas with painting, you can write anything off as it's a creative expression. Even when I was painting, I would uh, incorporate lines or boundaries, I guess, to contain the artwork itself and to organize the artwork itself. So it's interesting to see how that's evolved for me over time. And I guess outside of that, I'm a huge fan of cooking and baking, and that's another thing I really enjoy at the end of the day, just to kind of turn my brain off and make something and kind of trust the process there. That's also very scientific. So I am behind that. I know what's going to happen if I do X with Y, and then you can kind of loosen and everything around that. So yeah, that's interesting. Finding a mix of the organization and the creative, which is like what I do for a living. So it makes sense why my hobbies would also be around that.
Yeah, I started calling it flow within structure.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that.
Flow within structure because
Yes, I love that.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a container for you. So it's not like you're not going to be creative or you're not going to flow. It's just that you feel contained, so you're even more safe to be creative
Mhm.
and to, which is exactly what you do for, other creatives. You create a structure for them to be able to flow from that
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, I love that.
It took me many years to understand that. I think this year has been like the year that I've been like, that has been like,
Mm.
like embodying. I've been embodying that because I was very structured. I always knew what I wanted. So I always had like a end goal.
Yeah.
And I decided not to do that because I realized like every time I would accomplish something in my career or in personal aspects, it's like, who am I?
This is very timely. I was just talking to my very good friend about this either this week or last week, I don't know. But we were talking about goals and exactly that of, I had a goal to do this and I completed it and I don't get the joy from it. I'm like, how sad. And kind of okay, now what? And it's really like stepping back and maybe reassessing what the goals are. Um and I don't know. I mean, this is really hard. This is very hard for me. I'm a very goal-oriented person. I'm a very cross the tasks off the list person. But so it's a practice, but it's about maybe reassessing what the goals are and how you want to feel when you complete them. And that might then inform how many goals you're setting for yourself, what the timeline is, and being real with yourself. What's realistic? Am I going to set this goal for me and fail, quote unquote, fail? No one, you're not really failing, but you can feel like you're failing when you don't achieve it faster than you wanted to, or whatever the reason. And why do we do that to ourselves? It's a practice to try and release some of that and be more gracious with yourself.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons I decided not to have this like specific like goal and like, but that also can be wildfire.
Mm.
You know,
Mhm.
the fire you can just go and go and go and not have anything that anchors you into anything, right? Like your home or your business or yourself. And so I think there is a balance within both of like having the grace, having the goals, but then having the grace behind that goal.
Mm.
But also knowing why are you putting that goal? Is it to show to the world that you can do it? Is it to show it to yourself, or you want to accomplish this because of someone else's
Mhm.
dreams?
Mhm.
And so having that clarity, I think, is
Yeah, I mean, it gets deep really quickly.
very quickly,
You
very
allow it
quickly
to, because everything is tied to something.
something.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a practice. I love what you said. Yeah, what you said really tapped into something of, am I doing this because this is what I think is going to push me or my business forward? Or am I doing this because this is what is perceived of what I should be doing? And perhaps the goals that are tied to the shoulds are the ones that don't feel the best when you complete them.
Yeah, and one example I have, it's that I did a yoga teacher training. So I'm a
Mm,
yoga teacher. Never in my entire life was that in my view of this life,
mm,
for me to accomplish. Yes, I've done yoga since I was 18 or in high school. I remember I went to a yoga class in high school, but my mom used to do yoga and I used to see her, doing a headstand. And I'm like, that is so cool, but I never thought it was for me.
mm,
And then a few years ago, in one of those, like, oh my God, I have accomplished all of this, right? In that moment, I had a moment to breathe because I was in between goals. And a friend calls me and she's like, oh, do you want to go with me to Costa Rica to do a yoga teacher training? Well, it was the third time. She's like, let's go to Bali, or let's go here and let's go here. And I always said no. But like when she mentioned Costa Rica, which is like one of my weaknesses, I'm like, I said yes. And so years later, I looked back to that moment and I'm like, that was not a goal of mine.
mm.
That was not a goal. And it's one of the things that transformed my life today. And so having that freedom to be able to, go beyond your lane or that goal, I think it can create something very special.
Yeah, you're leaving the door open for opportunities to come your way instead of, being very, this is what I'm doing and that's it, and blinders on. When you allow the structure to be loose, then you're allowing other things to come your way, or you're saying yes to things that you might not have in the past. So it's I'm reminded of, I just read Ina Garten's new autobiography, which I loved, and something that she said, which I have written here on a post-it on my desk, and I just looked down and read it, but she's talking about work hard and leave the door open. So you're going to continue. I just got chills when I said that. You're going to continue to forge ahead, work towards your lifeblood, your passion, work towards what you're building and what you've built, and leave the door open for things to change and for other opportunities to come your way that you might never have considered for yourself.
Yeah. Wow. I got tears.
Uh,
So yeah, it's not that you're not going to have a goal, but that is not the end. Your goal is not the end,
yeah,
It's like
yeah. I love that.
beyond that. It's beyond that. It's exploration, it's adventure. It's like, but within a containment. Like, it's not that you're going to go, wildfire like I did, for a few years. But like,
That's okay. I mean, that's part of your journey,
yeah,
That's what you needed to do, and you got
yeah.
experiences from that that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
First of all, I want to say thank you so much. And one of the reasons I found you and I reached out to you was because of that, because I realized I need to create boundaries around and structure around my life and my business. So I'm so happy that you're here and that you got to share so much of your wisdom with so many people. And I think this is just a start of many beautiful collaborations, but also of like people knowing you and knowing what you do. So thank you for joining us. But apart from that, anything else you want to share that I might have forgotten to talk about?
I just want to share to whoever's listening to work on trusting your intuition. There's a lot of noise out there, especially with being a small business owner and finding, and here's the 5 tips that you need right now to solve your business, and use this one program that's going to fix everything for you, and use this one template that's going to solve your life. Yes, there's value in all of those things, but it's really up to you to trust what's right for you and for your business. And so leaning into that and paying attention to the things that you do that bring you joy and the processes that work for you, and lean into those.
Beautiful. And where can people find you? It'll be in the show notes.
Yes. So my website is my company is Kat&co, and my website is @andco.org, spelled out KATANDCO. I almost forgot how to spell my own company. KATANDCO.org. And you can also find me on LinkedIn.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Kat, for being here. See you soon.
Yes. Thank you, Rainey.
Space Whispers. Thank you for spending time with me today. Your host, Rainey, on the Space Whispering podcast. I hope today's episode gave you something to reflect on, inspire you, or energize you to create something beautiful. Help us grow this soulful community and spread the love by subscribing to the podcast, leaving a review, or sharing this episode with your community. If you're feeling called to transform your inner or outer spaces into a true reflection of you, let's connect. Schedule a discovery session with me at rainy.co or Instagram rainy_. What soulful actions will you take today? Keep listening to the whispers of creation and let your soul's magic flow into the world. See you soon. Besitos.